Well, hey, we start a new series today called Easy to See, and I am excited because this is the time of year that people in our communities get to see what the church is all about. Now, it's cool to come here, spend time worshiping, open up God's word, and we catch up with each other, kind of see each other. But, there's something very cool and very different about when we focus on how we can channel our love and devotion to God to the organizations that love and care for the people in our communities. So look, if you're new to this whole thing, throughout the year we identify nonprofits at every one of our campuses, the ones that are really reaching people, really making a difference, and we vet those efforts. We make sure that they are doing top-notch work. And then we show up and we say this, we say, how can I help you? And so throughout the year, we seek to partner with them and we help them by volunteering, assisting with these agencies. We want to help them reach people, take care of people who need help right where we live at each one of our campuses. And this is why this time of year gets to be so much fun. This time of year, we take a few weeks in November and December and we focus on giving lots of our time and our money to these partners to let them know that, man, we're in the same work. It's like we want to be this wave of generosity and caring that shows the church is not just a place for people to huddle up together somewhere, but the church is meant to send out people to live out God's love in tangible and helpful ways. And I really love this effort because it's been something that's been a part of who I am for a long time. When I first came out of school, I was a youth pastor in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And while I was there, we were looking for ways that we could really reach the community in similar ways. And every year around Thanksgiving, we'd actually rent a bunch of vans. We tell all these high schoolers, we say, look, bring all your money. We're gonna go to a grocery store and we'd send out teams to go buy food for Thanksgiving dinner, and then we'd send out other teams to go buy things like shampoo and soap and stuff that just makes life easier. And then we'd put all these things in a bag, okay? And we'd kind of line up all these bags for each house and we'd write a note how much God loved them, how much we love them. And then we'd go to these houses where we guessed that they needed stuff. And, we'd put them down at the door, and then we'd knock on the door and we'd take off, we'd run. That's what we call it, ring and run. It was really great. It was a combination of like good deeds and mischief night. It was awesome. But the question is, were these getting to the right people? Did these bags go to the right people? And we hope so. We just kind of guessed. So now I know what you're thinking. You're saying, okay, well, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, but I bet you there are better ways and maybe even safer ways to do something like that. And you're right, okay? So look, we want our love for God and our communities to be easy to see. And I think, now the bags left on a doorstep, I think that accomplishes something. But what if we could do more than that? That's why I love this so much. This is a year-round sort of thing. Easy to See is a year-round sort of thing. It's not just a turkey drop for one meal. We work with youth centers and women's shelters and addiction recovery centers and underfunded elderly homes, food banks. I mean, you name it. There's something for everybody. That's something that you and I can be a part of right from our seat. You don't need to get in a church van, and you don't need to wonder whether or not this is going to the right place, okay? This is something is needed in our community. And these organizations we partner with, they're doing great things in the places that we live. And so we're working hard. We're working hard to make sure our love is easy to see. So listen, we're gonna talk about this today. We're gonna talk about how you can be a part of this effort, how you can give to this effort, okay? So I know as soon as I say that, there's maybe some of you out there saying like, all right, here we go. It's the money thing. They want my money. I get that. Or maybe you're watching this and you're like, oh, that's what my parents give to. I can zone out for the next half hour, okay? Or maybe you're like, well, money's tight right now. I don't know if I'm really gonna go there with you, but you can keep talking. Look, there are 1,000 different reactions you can have. And honestly, I wanna share with you what one of my reactions would be, because not all the time, but I have a similar reaction that has to do with kind of some charity fatigue. Now, look, I love being generous. I'm the guy who took students to grocery stores, okay? Everything I just said is 100% true, and I love being generous as much as I can, but can I just be honest? I just want to draw you into this a little bit. There are sometimes I feel like I reach a limit, I definitely get that like giving fatigue. Not all the time. Not all the time, not 100% of the time, but there are times when it comes to the surface. It's like when you're driving along and you see the person with the sign, you're coming to a stoplight and this has a sign that says some horrible thing happened to them and they really want some money. And I know this is gonna sound terrible, but I always tell myself, okay, I'm gonna have like a bag of food, in the car all the time. So if anybody needs something, I'll be like, here, have some food. And I never have the bag of food. I always forget the bag of food. So I see the sign, and I do this horrible thing where like I see the stoplight, I know the stoplight's gonna turn green at some point. So I kind of slow down early, do you know what I mean? And I just keep rolling. Just keep rolling so I don't have to technically stop. And then I pretend to look around my vehicle like, I lost something. There's something in here somewhere. I just can't find it, because once I make eye contact, it's over. The window goes down. I'm just giving stuff, so I try not to make eye contact. And I wonder, is this some kind of big scam? Is this really going towards people that are homeless or needing something, or is this going to go to something really bad? So I just keep rolling. Okay, if I just keep rolling, looking for imaginary things in my car. Have you ever done something like that? Am I the only worst person? Okay, I'm getting some nods, that's good. Okay, I just feel like a Scrooge. I feel like a humbug, But, okay, so I just feel like this is gonna be a confessional. Can I just confess to you? Because it doesn't stop there. It's the same thing with the chicken barbecue people, Man, I get that same feeling. They're holding these signs. I try not to make eye contact. Look, I like chicken, but I don't want to spend $10 on a half-cooked piece of chicken with applesauce and a roll. I just don't, okay? Is that a bad thing? Am I bad for saying that? Am I a horrible person? It's like, please, enough with the chicken. I see the Scoutmaster out there. I see the band boosters. They're giving up their Saturday. They're doing great things. They want to sell me chicken, and I'm just pretending to look for stuff in my car. Like, I missed it. I would have, but, And then, oh my gosh, it gets worse. Then there's those people that come to your door. It's worse because they know where you live. It's like these cute little kids. They're showing up at your door, and they got stuff for like clubs or band or something. And look, if I don't know them, I don't feel like I really need to buy anything. And I've actually thought of a really good idea, okay? I thought, if I can print up like a fake brochure or like a form or like something that looks really legitimate. And I would like just keep it right by the door. So whenever I open up the door and they're selling something, I'd be like, oh, I'm selling something too. No way. You know what? How about we swap? I'll buy yours if you buy mine. Now, how much is yours? Oh, $16.95. That's crazy. So is mine. It's exact same cost. Why don't we just call it even? Have a nice day. Just kids like, what just happened? It's an idea. It's in the idea phase. Hasn't reached prototype. Maybe next year I'll actually develop that and give you some stats on how that works. And look, if you're coming to my house and you want to sell a hoagie, are you kidding me? Okay, so I'm a hoagie snob, okay? All I'm thinking is like, you've come to the wrong place if you're trying to sell a hoagie, because we live in a day and an age when people think that you can just throw lunch meat on a roll and call it a hoagie. Like, are you kidding me? Subway, subpar, okay, let's just say. I'm asking these little guys what roll they use, because I'm a little bit more Philly, like, do you use Amoroso roll? Is it a Licio roll? How about Conshohocken Bakery, Atlantic City Bakery? If you're not using those rolls, that's not worth eating. Again, the kid's just like, what happened? Okay, come back when you're pushing Licios, kid, okay? So if you're coming to my door, I love visitors. I will go out and talk with visitors all day long. I love people coming to my door, but I'm not buying anything if I don't know who you are and I don't know where it's going. And you know what? If you're just some random kid, I usually try the friend approach. This is kind of what I do. Open up, oh, you're selling something? Here, come here, kid. Let me just tell you something. I'm not buying anything, but I've got something more valuable, okay? I've got strategy, okay? That guy over there, he's loaded. You can roll him for like 4 of these things. I don't even know what you're selling, but I'm sure who. And that lady over there, she's a sucker for stuff like this. Just get big eyes. Just be like, I'm selling stuff. And I'll just tell them all day long, just go to those people. And come back next year with a Wawa hoagie, okay? Shorty roll, double meat, extra oil, you might have a sale. And why is nobody selling Chick-fil-A door to door? If that's not the biggest oversight in the universe, if you came to my door and you said, I'm selling Chick-fil-A, you've just made my day. I don't care how much it costs. You had me at hello, okay? So look, it's easy to say no when you're disconnected. And it's the same thing for me with random checkout line. Would you like to donate to homeless cats? No, what? Or the roundup thing. Do you want to donate the 89 cents to some charity, making sure guinea pigs are adopted? No, I don't. I always wonder, is this really what it's going to? Like, what's going on? And then it's really bad. Okay, so as long as I'm confessing, I'm getting all this out. This is the bottom of the barrel now. I'm giving it to you. When I'm at Target and it's around Christmas time. Now remember, this isn't all the time. It's just when I get like that charity fatigue. Do you know what I'm talking about? And so I'm at Target, I'm checking out, and I'm on my way out, and I usually wait for a large family to go out in front of me so I can use them as a human shield to the bell ringer, you know? I'm just like, okay, get the free pass. I don't have to actually look like I'm fishing for money. So look, I get to this time of year and I just feel like everyone's asking me for something and I get a little tired of it. It makes me feel like a Scrooge. You know, Scrooge is like the whole Christmas Carol thing, the story of Christmas where the guy, he's so miserly, he doesn't give money to anybody, he just kind of hoards what he has. And Scrooge gets these 3 visitors on Christmas night who remind him of his past, they show him his present, and they show him his future. And Scrooge has to be reminded of his connection to the people in his life. And it's the ghost of Christmas past that reminds Scrooge that he loved his family at one point, and he's especially close to his sister. If you remember, his younger sister was dying. She was a young mother, and he vowed to help her young family, but he lost that connection, and he forgot that promise. And he was also reminded of the connection that he had to Bob Cratchit and his little boy, Tiny Tim. And Tiny Tim had tuberculosis and rickets, and it could be cured with enough money. The guy didn't have to die, but as it was going, Tiny Tim would die. And all Scrooge had to do was to see how he was connected to this family and the little boy could be saved. And see, sometimes I fall into this mindset, not all the time, but there are moments when I need to be reminded of who I am, the connection I have to the people around me. And so whenever I need to be reminded, I go back to Scripture, okay? God already told us who we are. And living generously is just a core value of people who love God. It has been for thousands of years. In fact, there's something really interesting about the way that God equates love for people who are struggling and love for him. So I want you to open up to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 15. It's on page 151. You got one of those Bibles. Any one of our rooms, we got Bibles around us. You can open up to one of our Bibles, page 151, Deuteronomy chapter 15. Otherwise, you get your phones open. Deuteronomy chapter 15, it's like God has this very special place in his heart for those who are at a disadvantage or those who need help getting back on their feet. So as you're turning there, Deuteronomy 15, this is God talking to the Israelites, reminding them of their need to open up with their wealth and to reach people in their land. So like the historical setting of this is that the Jews are coming into the land that God has set aside for them. And he reminds them to make sure that they take care of those who need help. So we're going to start in verse 4. In verse 4, it actually starts off with a really stark kind of opening phrase. It says, "There should be no poor among you, for the Lord your God will greatly bless you in the land he is giving you as a special possession. You will receive this blessing if you are careful to obey all the commands of the Lord your God I'm giving you today." So a short little explanation here is he's saying, look, if everyone took care of each other, if you valued each other, if your love was easy to see, there would be no poor. Now think about that for a minute. Like God's actually setting this up as like a necessary relationship. He said, if you followed my laws, there would be no need. But not everybody does. Okay, we live in a fallen world. So what do? Skip down to verse 7. Okay, if you skip down to verse 7, you see what happens if that doesn't happen. But if there are any poor Israelites in the towns when you arrive in the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Instead, be generous and lend them whatever they need. Do not be mean-spirited and refuse someone a loan because the year for canceling debts is close at hand. If you refuse to make the loan, now listen to this phrase, this is crazy. If you refuse to make the loan and the needy person cries out to the Lord, you will be considered guilty of sin. Now that last line, that's a wow. Like, whoa, what are you saying? So we're going to come back to that. So keep your Bibles open, keep your finger on that. We're going to come back to that. But overall, I just want to kind of summarize what we're looking at here. This is a specific set of instructions that God sets up for the people of Israel about making loans to people. It's very direct and it's very isolated to that subject, but the idea behind it is so much more than that. I mean, this is a radical departure from the other laws of the day. It is weighted so heavy on the person needing help. You see, the big picture here is that God's saying that you need to take care of the poor. See, in the Old Testament, generally, there was a sense that good people should help the poor. But within society, within the culture, there was a sense that the poor did something to become poor. And so sometimes the poor were looked at like they were under God's judgment. They kind of shifted things around here. The reasoning was that poor people became poor as a result of their personal decisions. And usually when people fell on hard times, there were family members, there were community members that could help them to just stay off the street. So the impression in the culture was that those who were on the street were probably there because they didn't have family or community to help them. And maybe they were kicked out of their families for some kind of sin. So reaching out to them would make the person reaching out to them unclean, so nobody did. And oftentimes people assumed that poverty meant your own family had deserted you, so I should stay far away from you. If you're shunnable, then I should shun you too. But see, this kind of thinking ignores deep poverty, the kind that keeps cycling on itself. It's tied to education and connection. So I'm poor because I don't have a family. But this passage and dozens of other passages like it in the Old Testament give us a new thought. This is a radical departure from Middle Eastern values, from ancient Near Eastern values. Listen, God seems to be saying this. He seems to be saying, listen, people, these are my people. Even if their family has disowned them, these are my people. Give them a second chance. That's my family. Take care of them. God is stepping in here saying, I'm their father. That's my family. Take care of them. I mean, look how radical this is. Go back to verse 1. This is really interesting. Verse 1 of chapter 15, look what God says here. He says, at the end of every seventh year, you must cancel the debts of everyone who owes you money. Think of that. Debts are canceled. God made it possible for people to get back on their feet. It's like a Sabbath year, a year to let debts rest. Those who didn't have much could get ahead. It was a way of creating equity through charity. That was a law. God said, you must. And then look in verse 9. Okay, in verse 9, God even says, don't refuse to loan to someone. Don't refuse to loan to someone because the year of canceling debts is close at hand. Can you imagine trying to lend to somebody in the year of canceling debts? Can you imagine lending somebody something? Say you lend them $100. And then the next year, that's when debts are going to be canceled, right? So maybe in that year you get $50 back. I mean, it would cause you to think about it, right? You'd say, wait a second, if I lend to them and I get half back and the debt gets released, then I just lost half my money. Now think about this for a minute. God says, do it. Do it. And then he goes on to say this, to do less is mean-spirited. They're poor. Help them out. Help them out. Doesn't this, I mean, if you look at this and we think through all the things we've been talking about, doesn't this eerily sound like Jesus? I mean, honestly, doesn't it sound like the echoes of Jesus? I mean, this is Deuteronomy, people. Deuteronomy is as Old Testament gets. It is like mega Old Testament. And yet you hear the voice of Jesus. Freely you've been given. Freely give. And then God finishes it out. You know what he says? He says, give generously to the poor, not grudgingly. And then he says, for the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. Verse 11, go down to verse 11 real quick. There will always be some in the land who are poor. That's why I'm commanding you. Think about this. I'm commanding you, I'm telling you, it's a law to share freely with the poor and with other Israelites in need. So guess what? This is like core level stuff. This is who we are. To follow Jesus is to help those in need. And so this is like a slap in the face. You know, whenever I get into that like mood of like charity overload, I got to remind myself, hey, John, this is who we are. This is just who we are. And we see this echoed throughout Jesus' teaching. We see it all through the life of the church. When John the Baptist came on the scene right before Jesus, they asked, you know, they're saying to John, hey, you keep telling us to repent. What does that mean? What does it mean to repent? And John clearly says, if you got 2 shirts, give one to the poor. If you have food, share it with the hungry. Jesus carried this idea further, saying that we should take care of those who need help. In Jesus' day, it was seen as unclean to eat with those who were poor or physically disabled. And Jesus completely turned that around. He emphasized this. Now listen, this is really interesting. It's almost formulaic. How paying those who could not pay you back was like paying God. Let me repeat that. Paying those who can't pay you back is like paying God himself. That's what Jesus said. I mean, look in Luke chapter 14. Luke chapter 14, verses 12 to 14. When you put on a luncheon or a banquet, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be your only reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame. Remember, in this day, these people were seen as kind of like, you don't want to hang out with them too much. You know, they're cursed by God. They're smitten by God. He says, no. Invite them, especially them. Then at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you. Man, talk about a completely different ethic. How Jesus completely turns things around, especially in Roman culture. Roman culture was brutal. And for Jesus to say something like this was completely different. The church lived by this. Acts chapter 2, verses 44 and 45. It says, and all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and possessions and shared the money with those in need. I mean, giving to the poor, it's not just like a merit badge thing. It's not just extra. It's not like icing on the cake, okay? It is the cake. It is the actual cake of who we are. In fact, this fact followed the church as a reputation. One of the Roman emperors, Julian, he hated Christianity. Julian, they would call him the apostate because he was not a Christian. He was actually a pagan, and he was very close to all these pagan priests, and he wanted to wipe out Christianity. He noticed that the church took care of the poor, even the poor pagans. I mean, it was common back then to take care of your family members. It was common to take care of the people in your community, but the Christians took care of everyone. In fact, I love how Tim Keller says it. He says, Christians were promiscuous in their care and provision for everybody. And we actually have a letter that Julian wrote to these pagan priests saying that they needed to do something about the Christians because their care was causing people to become Christ followers. So look at this. It says, they support not only the poor, but ours as well. All men see that our people lack aid from us. He's basically saying they're wrecking us with their goodness. In fact, Julian proposed that pagan priests imitate Christian charity. And he wanted to bring about this big revival of paganism within the empire. And it failed. You know why? Because you can't fake a core value. See, this is core for us. This is who we are. I want you to look at the passage again in Deuteronomy chapter 15. Let's get that heavy. Remember, I was like, whoa, keep your finger on that. Let's go back to that, okay? Chapter 15, verse 9, it says, if you refuse to make the loan and the needy person cries out to the Lord, you'll be considered guilty of sin. Now that's, this passage here is when people go like, whoa, wait a second. Heavy passage. We get nervous talking about sin sometimes. Listen, when God brings up the heart condition here, being mean-spirited, later he talks about begrudgingly helping those who don't have as much. He's not talking about a set of rules. He's talking about where your heart is. When this passage says guilty of sin, it's not saying you have violated a rule, okay? He's saying we've violated who we are. We don't do this to cross it off a list. We do this to express who we are deep down. Okay, we do this to express who the heart of God is. See, the sin is forgetting who we are. We're only hurting ourselves by being stingy and hard-hearted. I mean, Jesus said it this way, wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be. And it's obvious that God's heart's for the poor. So essentially, God's saying, if you say you have love for me, if you say you have the love of God in your heart, make it easy to see. So, I say all this stuff, and it sounds like there's a preacher up there just saying, like, God needs your money. Listen, God doesn't need your money. When you talk about need, it's us we need to be a part of this. God doesn't need our cash. We're the ones who need to be a part of this. Here's why I say you need to be a part of this, because if you don't, you are missing the connection we have with all of this. When God tells the Israelites in Deuteronomy to get involved in other people's lives, he's saying, don't forget the connection you have. You draw close to God when you draw close to those in need. And just like Scrooge remembered the connection you have with the people in his life, we need to be a part of the efforts right where we live, helping people who are homeless or just out of jail or starting life again, or they've got kids that they can't feed. Look, this isn't guessing what house needs resources. You don't have to wonder where this money is going or whether it's really going to people that need it. You are connected to these people. These are the people that live on our campus. You need to be a part of what's going on. Listen, you need to be part of what's going on at Hazleton. CHOP, the Children's Hunger Outreach Project, they've received approval to get into the Hazleton School District. Listen to that, to get into the Hazleton School District where they can impact 6,000 students. So every weekend, they send them home with backpacks of food for the weekend because they don't have food at home. Think about that. They don't have food at home. Kids who are cared for become kids who can achieve, and you are improving our communities in Hazleton. You need to be a part of what we're doing in Ephrata. Good Samaritan recently purchased a building next door to them, and they want to buy furniture so they can create a space for kids. Good Samaritan helps men, women, and children overcome homelessness and poverty. And having a space designed to take care of kids allows parents to go off to their appointments and job interviews. See, so having that space enables them to get jobs. It helps them get back on their feet. Man, you need to be a part of what we're doing in Bloomsburg. Agape, we partner with Agape. It's this ministry in Columbia, Montour. Agape would love to install showers in their new location. And you know, you and I, we take for granted like getting a shower, looking all presentable, clean, going to a job interview. We just want to help them have a sense of dignity and self-worth and get back to life. You're helping them get back on their feet. Man, you need to be a part of what we're doing in Waynesboro. In Waynesboro, we have the ability to replace 30-year-old playground equipment at Fairview Elementary School. Can I just tell you about Fairview Elementary School? 70% of the students there live in poverty. You being a part of that gets that all fixed for them, gets all new, brand new playground equipment. You need to be a part of what we're doing at our Berks campus, where we're working with Community Prevention Partnership. We are helping to provide 100 families who don't have enough food. You're helping put food on the table. See, those kids who have food on the table, loving, stable families, they do better in school, and they're able to break the cycle of poverty. Do you see how you are connected to changing lives right where you live? Do you see that? You need to be a part of what we're doing at Mannheim. Gigi's Playhouse. It's a thing in Lancaster where they empower individuals with Down syndrome. They work with families to help those with Down syndrome become independent. And Gigi's wants to open up Cafe G. It's a teaching kitchen where individuals with Down syndrome can learn to prepare meals for themselves and for others. And man, you need to be a part of what we're doing in Harleysville. This is especially close to my heart. We're working with Liberty Ministries. Liberty works with men who have recently been released from prison. They enroll, listen, a 12-month discipleship and educational program. And basically what we want to do is we want to refurbish their barn where men can meet and rebuild relationships with their families, and they can reestablish trust. You know what that tells me? It's that somebody's getting their daddy back. These are just a few of the projects that we're a part of. Every campus has their list. And this really has become who we are over the last 10 years. In fact, I want to show you something. Over the last 10 years, we've put $4.9 million to local nonprofits. We've served over 32,000 hours with community partners. We've donated over 53,000 shoeboxes. We've bought over 35,000 Giving Tree gifts, and we sponsored over 7,000 children through child sponsorship. And you know what all that means? When you add all that up, you know what number you get? $39.95. Yeah, that's right. For the 10th year in a row, we are asking you to give this, to get involved in all those things. Hey, look, a love that's easy to see is also a love that's easy to take part in. Today, as you leave here, you got a few simple ways that you can give to Easy to See. Not a penny, listen to me, not a penny goes to our church. There are no administrative costs, no overhead. Every penny goes to our partners. We just want to pour out as much as we can in this season. So I'm asking you, the person sitting in the seat in any one of our rooms. I'm talking to you if you're sitting on the couch watching with friends or family. If you are a high schooler, if you are a young adult, can you give up coffee for a month? I know I'm getting crazy here, but let's get every person involved, every person watching involved. I'm asking you to give $39.95 to what's going on in your backyard. And again, we don't get a penny of this. And if that's too high, then send something. You can enter in your own amount when you text in. We just want every person involved. And listen, I'm gonna say this. If some of you are in a position to add a number or two in front of that, some of you can add 2 or 3 numbers in front of that. And if that's how God is nudging you, just follow through. Look, some of you need to see this as your gift. Your wealth is a gift. When I was in college, a bunch of us, we were graduating, and we all sat around, we were talking about what we're gonna do, how we're gonna change the world. You know, there's about like 7 of us. And we all went through, like somebody was gonna be a pastor, somebody was gonna be a missionary, somebody was gonna open up a camp for boys, and like all this kind of stuff. We could do all these amazing things. And then we got to the last person, Dave Robertson, and he said, I'm gonna make 7 figures. And we were all like, pfft. You know, we just looked at him like, how dare you? And he goes, guys, who do you think's gonna fund all of your stuff? He's like, I wanna live off of 5 figures, but I wanna fund everything you're doing. He knew his gift. Let me tell you something. There are lots of people, I'm looking at you. There are lots of people right now who have that gift. Use it. Use the wealth you have to make a difference where you live. And look, I'm gonna say on the complete opposite end of that, if $39.95 is a stretch, I know what that's like. I got 2 kids in college. Hey, just give what you can. Just be a part of this. Let's get everyone on board. So here's what you do. All you have to do is text easy to see to 20022. That's 200 and then 22. Just text easy to see to that. You can do this right now at your seats. Go ahead. I don't care if you got your phone out. Go ahead. I'm not going to be, bothered by you sitting there on your phone. Just do it. You can also hop on the app if you want to. If you're watching this on a website, like on your computer or whatever that, you can go to lcbcchurch.com. If you would rather have a more personal touch at any one of our rooms, we can go out into the atrium and there are people there to assist you and make it easy to see payment. You can have the white balloons or for people with credit cards, green balloons or cash. And I know, it always feels like, okay, this is the worst time to give because of the economy or gas or inflation or whatever. But doesn't that make it the best time? I mean, think about it. Just think of how this looks in our communities when they see this outpouring, this wave of generosity is coming from our church. That's something I want to be a part of. Look, I want to be able to look in the eyes of anyone who would say that the church is just a bunch of hypocrites that only care about themselves. I want to be able to look at them and say, not my church, not my people. Because think about it. Scrooge changed. He didn't become the guy that gave to everyone all the time. He wasn't crazy about it. If you remember the story, he went to his sister's family, he begged for forgiveness, and he invested in that family. He went to Bob Cratchit, he asked forgiveness, and then he asked if he could invest in that family. He invested in Tiny Tim. He got them the help that he needed, all because one man invested in one family. Look, we've got families who are in need right where we live. And as people who follow Jesus, it's just who we are.